Thanks, Nikki, and thanks to those of you who have attended today. I don't normally get to do this because I talk too much and talk too fast, but as a bit of introduction to myself, I have over 20 years experience delivering projects and change from systems implementations to organizational transformations, process change, lean, etc. So, and I've had roles, every role in projects, up to program director, to running enterprise PMOs globally. So I know a fair thing about the pains and challenges we have in delivering change, especially in today's world. So I'm going to talk on how to look at the bigger picture and demonstrate very quickly some of the ways that Sharktower can help enable PMOs, program directors, program assurance, and stakeholders see the bigger picture and keep their projects on track. But firstly, for those of you that are new, I'll just give a little bit of context of what Sharktower is and why we're here. So as Nikki said, our prize today is you can win your own Sharktower in Lego. We love Lego and we love everything to do with sharks and beaches as well. But it's not just a fun name. A shark tower at the beach helps spot danger on the horizon, and that's our job at Sharktower. We're trying to help project teams and those involved in projects, all stakeholders, spot problems before they happen. And why do we do that? Well, I think anybody that I speak to, anybody that's been delivering projects for a long time knows that we're not that good at it in the whole. Project delivery, traditionally it continues to fail, whether it's about half of projects failing to deliver within the timescales or budget, or a third of them failing to meet the original business goals. And it's only getting harder to do that at a time where all of our businesses need to deliver greater enterprise agility, respond faster to disruptive markets, to very fast changing consumer choice, to global pandemics that we've seen just now, and rapidly changing ways of working. It's becoming more and more difficult to do our job, and that is not a fault of project managers, project professionals, etc. It's the context and complexity has got a lot greater, and it's changing a lot, more rapidly. So it's harder to align people on outcomes because we're dealing with disparate teams, remote working, we're dealing with multiple vendors and stakeholders and consultants and suppliers. We've got a lot more change than we ever had, and we're having to do it a lot faster. We're having to try to identify what to start and stop. So we need to know where to focus our best efforts, and it's hard to filter all the noise of all the governance reportings and all the risk reportings and all the delivery reports we've got. And traditionally, we haven't really helped ourselves because we've created silos. Project management has created ways of working that work in one context, waterfall or agile. Generally, it gets a bit harder when you mix them, or it works for the IT department or the market department or the people or comms department. So everybody's working in different ways and different tools. So it's really hard to see that bigger picture. And we waste a lot of time chasing data, trying to report on it for issues to happen before we've even noticed them. I think most people in project management roles hate being surprised, but we get surprised a lot. And this is one of the challenges we have. So one of the things, our aspirations, one of the things we really try in Sharktower is to try and make Sharktower fit for right fit project delivery. And this is one of the biggest challenges for program assurance and PMOs and project leaders to really get a grasp of is we're working in many ways, and we should constantly be adjusting the way that we deliver and delivery vehicles to make sure that we are delivering the best we can towards the outcome and have the greatest opportunity of realizing that outcome to the maximum value. So regardless if you're a software house that's absolutely agile and really robust in your agile development practices, you're still going to have some elements of staging. You're going to be scoping work, you're going to be doing strategic planning, business planning, quarterly goals. Regardless, in almost every industry you're going to have some waterfall, whether it's because you've got big legacy infrastructure systems that you have to integrate with, or you've got regulation that you have to comply with. There'll be something that needs some sort of waterfall integration or sign off. And then ultimately, most of our business, hopefully, is working in an iterative way, whether it be Kanban or continuous improvement or whatever we call it. Whether that's process, marketing, comms, we'll be working in iterations. So trying to bring that together is a challenge. And what generally creates is this picture, and I'm sure we've all seen this. And what I want to sort of demonstrate today is in Sharktower is how we try to overcome that and try to improve what really happens in our oversight and assurance of change. In my 20 plus years, I promise you, almost every Microsoft project plan has only ever been looked at by the project manager. And they will put the bare minimum in that to try and make it manageable. Then the milestones from that, whether you call it the stage gates, because you've got a change framework or a project framework or the milestones, they'll be looked at by the PMO and often extracted and put into Excel reports, into board packs. You may even have big enterprise traditional PPM tools where you'll put the milestone information, dependency, risk information. But most of that's retrospective and it's it's good for governance reporting, but no one else in the project's looking at it. And actually, most of your stakeholders are not logging into these systems. They're definitely not looking at Microsoft project plans or Gantt charts. And when you speak to the teams delivering projects, they'll say, well, this is my plan. I'm actually, I'm really visual and Kanban. Maybe not today, they're not going to have post-it notes on a wall, but there's my work. At the end of my desk, there's my work and post-it notes. The marketing team might have adopted Write because it works really well for their purposes, or IT team are actually using a bit of ServiceNow because it's got some task management in it. Or actually, a lot of people are working in Excel spreadsheets passed between different vendors and suppliers and different teams. And the pure project manager spends about 30% of the time at least trying to gather that data, put it together, report it, put it up the layers, report it again, layer it again, all to try and make decisions on it and get that oversight. So it's a really difficult job that we've got in project delivery to try and have that oversight. So what I want to do today very quickly is try and show how do we do that? How do we do end-to-end portfolio? And how do we try and help delivery not be so complex? Right? Well, our job and the job of any project assurance, PMO office, project leader is to try and make sure we focus on the right thing, that we actually can spot problems early and make fast decisions so that we know when to intervene, adjust plans or approaches. We know when to stop projects because they're not delivering the right outcomes or they're not relevant anymore because the business context has changed. And to do that, we also need to help increase accountability. It's really difficult to have shared accountability if we don't have the same view of change and the same transparency. And ultimately, it's to try and help us deliver better outcomes. And one of the things we talk about Sharktower a lot, we talk about it being a project management tool, a project and portfolio management tool. And it is absolutely, but at the end of the day, it's a business outcome tool. It's about helping deliver change for our business and our customers. So that's the thing we should focus on and what I'll touch on today. So let me stop sharing that, and I'll quickly switch into the demo environment and try and bring that to life for you. I'll switch into this. So for those of you that have been through Walk-through Wednesday, I'm not going to go and do an in-depth overview of Sharktower. But what I'm going to try and do is highlight how Sharktower tries to augment the project management office to try and do some of the manual tasks we might do in a PMO office or assurance role or a project leadership role where we're having to chase people, nudge people, we're having to manually report, and how Sharktower can automate some of that for you, can improve the quality of project information, and then ultimately how it can help you help the business by focusing on objectives and outcomes and really being that strategic advisor to the business. So touch on some stuff. What you're seeing here is Sharktower homepage, and what Sharktower tries to do is make information relevant to all stakeholders. So we're not just a platform for project managers. We're not just Microsoft Project for running Gantt charts. We're not just Trello for running task management. We're a combination of all those things as well as your portfolio reporting. And we want all stakeholders to be in here, the business owners, sponsors, those impacted by change, as well as the doers and the project managers. So one of the things that Sharktower is really good at is helping nudge best practice. So one of the pains I used to always feel when I was in PMO roles was not just get people to report, but to report in a timely way and actually put in data quality and keep things up to date. So one of the key things Sharktower is trying to keep people focused and trying to encourage best practice. So what you might see if I'm logging in for the first time as a user is the highlight over here, which tell me I've got several high priority tasks. I need to sort them fast. Now, I could go to my Kanban and look at all the tasks, issues, risks, decisions I've got across all my projects. I could go into individual projects, but what Sharktower is trying to do here is encourage best practice. Say, look, you're getting slightly out of control. You've got far too many things that are high priority today or overdue, so that can't be right. So quickly, how can we help you focus? And it really helps drive best practice for people keeping things up to date, but also constantly reprioritizing. What it does in the background is actually help us learn what is really important to people and prioritize, and that can help drive some of our algorithms and automated services. So what I can do here is I can quickly say, yeah, definitely need to focus on the solution architecture. That I actually completed it, I just forgot to update it. That can be postponed, that I need to do. And I can start work. And it's doing a job that we spend a lot of time as project leaders doing and trying to encourage best practice. We can also use recommendation engines to identify work that we think people might be interested in because it has a synergy with what they're doing, because they're working on, say, a GDPR project someone else's, or actually highlighting someone that this, like I work with a lot, has got a whole bunch of tasks on, so they're about to be overloaded. And also simple things like highlighting to stakeholders what's changed. Like, you're involved in this project, it's been downgraded to red, you probably want to see that now. Don't wait for weekly reports, fortnightly reports, or even worse, monthly steering meetings. And everything being clicked through and drilled down. So that's one of the things that Sharktower tries to do, trying to help us still best practice, give people timely information and updates on things that have changed across all projects and portfolio based on their persona. One of the other things that we really encourage with Sharktower is trying to engage senior stakeholders. And this was my, full-time job when I started to move up roles into program director roles and stuff, was how do I articulate what we're doing and keep that engaged and aligned to the business objectives. One of my biggest frustrations when I was in assurance roles and PMO roles, that actually most people in projects didn't know why they were doing the thing in the first place. Ultimately their goal was to deliver milestones or the solution, regardless of what the business benefit or impact was. And likewise, senior stakeholders knew they had a business outcome they needed to achieve, but didn't actually know what was required to do it. And it didn't help because we'd give them PowerPoint slides to show them high-level roadmaps, and they didn't really engage or have a shared accountability. So with Sharktower, one of the things we try to do again is encourage that openness and transparency and shared accountability by making sure we can link our operational goals. So what you're seeing here is an OKR, an objective key result, a strategic objective, whatever you want to call them. Maybe a quality objective for this division, where this could be your senior stakeholder business owner of division A that owns this target for the business that they need to get their operational efficiency down. And some of the key results they're trying to do, and we can record confidence levels. We can actually chat about, we can raise tasks specific to that objective. But the key thing here is linking it to projects and actually showing the live outcome information again, without having to wade through PowerPoint decks or go into the detail. As a senior stakeholder, I know that across these two different projects, there's 4 major outcomes that are getting delivered. So this data migration has got 2 tranches. This new booking system had some system to go live, some test coverage, and it's complete, so I'm happy. That's on track. But I can see immediately that one of the major outcomes to support my business objective is slipping, and that's live update. So again, as a senior stakeholder, anytime I can engage in this, and it also stops me having to ask information. I don't have to come and ask for can you recut the report? Can you give me a new report? Can you give me an update on the outcomes? As a senior stakeholder, I can go in here and see what's happening to deliver my business objectives. And I can drill right in. Now, this always takes a little bit of training and engagement and your best practice, but as a senior stakeholder, I've got the ability to go in, see the plan that leads towards that objective. I can even drill in to that plan, that activity, see what's going on, see any task decisions, see history, progress, and I can actually be a really good stakeholder and sponsor and request an update and how can I help? What that does is, I think it does twofold. One is it allows stakeholders to see actually what's required to deliver. So they actually see the scale of the project. And this is a combination of your Gantt chart, your critical path and your roadmap with dependencies, task issues. They get to see the scale of it very quickly. It's not a simplified plan on a page, but it also allows them to engage. It also means that the project manager or the activity owner knows that someone's interested, and hopefully it drives positive change. What we often see is the quality of information, the timeliness of information becomes tenfold. Overnight, people start updating things, but people work together better to solve problems in delivery as well. I won't go into this plan. This is not a session about the planning thing, but please do come to other sessions, ask questions about how we create plans and our innovative way of doing that. Everything underpins Sharktower, obviously creating a plan, task management, team collaboration, meeting logs as well. One of the key things that Sharktower does is encourage best practice in terms of how we run stand-ups. That wasn't a good example, apologies. I should have used one that's not started. So how do we encourage stand-up best practice? And whether you're agile or not, stand-up's a great thing for allowing people to focus on who's blocked, what tasks. So we're encouraging that, but we're also encouraging meeting capture for weekly RAID reviews. So not having or steer calls or committee meetings. So not having a separate Excel log for actions and decisions, having them in Sharktower, recorded against a meeting with a history and recorded against the work. So keeping everything in one place. Along with budget, again, not having budgets on separate spreadsheets that you're having to pull together and collate, having budgets, recorded in terms of business case budgets with the forecasts or actuals updated by the project manager, so we clearly see all the time variance. The same goes with allocation, making these really simple, intuitive tools that the project manager does this work for you, as opposed to asking for spreadsheet after spreadsheet or RAID logs or, for risks and issues or dependencies. It's all in one place, all connected to the work. What that means as a PMO is I can do live assurance a lot quicker. So what you're seeing here is, this is the PowerPoint deck that we spent all those weeks in the past collecting data manually from, compiling, filtering, and all the stuff that's subjective to stuff that we didn't even spot happening, or to people trying to tell good stories. This is our live dashboard across our portfolio, and we're seeing a portfolio or division of projects. And each one of these tiles is a live status report. It's that one-page PowerPoint that tells me what RAG status the project manager is saying, but it's actually giving me live information about the next outcome. Well, that's overdue. There's a resource gap. I can actually see last week they only completed 2 activities, no tasks or stories. This week they're trying to do more. Is that a believable velocity? Do I need to intervene? And it also gives me a live view of the breakdown. So I can quickly see, where do I need to look? Do I trust this green project? This is a bad example. Hopefully it never gets this bad, but it's a demo environment. I don't trust that's green because it's very, very red, as you can see. So what we're doing is augmenting project manager reporting with live delivery information that you can quickly drill down to. You can see the live status reports. We're no longer waiting for weekly status reports. And we're removing that manual overhead. So I spend more time finding where the problems are and help solve them, as opposed to collecting data to then go and try and find problems and then solve them. So what you see here is a project overview page where the business, everybody in the project knows what the business objective is on the right-hand corner. So it's always tied in. We can quickly know what the project's description is, linked to key documents. We can see all the major outcomes. So without me having to go into that complicated plan, I can just flick through all the major outcomes in the project. Or I can look at 4-week, 8-week, 12-week look aheads, or what's due, what's completed in the past. So but everything I can drill straight back into the plan. It's not static reports. One of the biggest things that we see a change of is, I'm sure people on the webinar will have felt this pain, that you sit in delivery meetings and we go through PowerPoint decks, and then we challenge a bit of information, or we try to solve the problem, and everyone in the room goes, well, that's already out of date. So the answer is, actually, I don't know, because that information is actually 2 weeks out of date. I'll have to go take this offline. So we very rarely make data-driven decisions in the meetings that we're supposed to be making pivotal decisions at. One of the biggest changes we see with Sharktower is, well, this is live. I actually have this up on screen, especially when we're working remote, where we can challenge why these things are overdue, drill into it, and start solving the problems with the project manager there and then, and actually, raising new decisions on it. Okay, well, let's raise a decision now, or let's raise a task, and let's get it sorted there and live, as opposed to working with static information. Obviously, we can see status reports, and in other sessions, we go into how Sharktower also helps with some of our underlying predictive analytics to look at sentiment or engagement of the team and stakeholders over time and project health. Again, what this does as a project leader or assurance person is it allows me to see what's going on in the project. Is it trending down? We all know the change curves, so let's identify it early and look at which work's causing it to change, and then go and look at that work and try and again intervene early. And that's where I can spend much more valuable time doing that with my project teams, as opposed to spending 30–50% of my time just gathering information to try and get that insight. Of course, in portfolio role, we want to be able to roll that up. And one of the areas we are continually working on in Sharktower is actually being able to do portfolio reporting. So being able to see risks, issues across all projects, being able to filter them, you'll be able to export them. I'll just hide these notifications. Being able to do stuff on them. One of the challenges we've found in the past, and especially in PMO and project management, is that they're the last people to get investment and to get investment in innovation in the ways of working, because ultimately in project delivery, we spend all our time trying to service the business. Of course we do. And we're generally playing catch up because there's so much going on, especially today's world as well, pivot and recover. So, one of the hardest things is actually to adopt new ways of working and not disrupt it. So one of the other aspects we do at Sharktower is make sure that as part of our onboarding and adoption is to make it seamless as possible for PMO teams in particular, because you're running 100 miles an hour. You have to keep reporting your governance reports to your boards and your stakeholders. Overnight, you're not going to get senior stakeholders all coming to Sharktower and change their ways of working. What you do get is you get project teams adopt really fast. We can replace Excel and other tools so quickly in that picture we saw of all the disparate tools. But we know there's still work to do to get stakeholders involved. So one of the things we do is make sure the data is yours. Everything in Sharktower, we're not a closed box. We want you to use the data. You shouldn't, while we're still developing a lot of areas around self-service reporting and everything else, but you shouldn't rely on us to give you data or give you reports that should be yours. And we make that a key thing of our onboarding that we do for free. So this is an example of something that you might see more typical. So Sharktower might be a slightly new view for some people, but actually what you might be more comfortable is with status reports like this that we produce in packs that you could filter down by projects, names, etc., to see project reports across your whole categories. What we're doing here and how we try to help people adopt Sharktower really fast, especially in PMO, so they can continue to service their existing ways of working reporting, is give them the data. We help them, whether it's in Power BI or Tableau, whatever you use. We'll make sure that we can quickly help you get your data in reports and replace those manual reports you do today with all the information coming out of Sharktower, so you don't have to do the data gather, and give you that immediate efficiency, while still making sure that your senior stakeholders get the reports they're used to, whether that's budget reports, whether that's roadmap reports across all the projects. Again, all this stuff is now underpinned by Sharktower, and actually we can automate overnight, very quickly for you, and it allows you to keep that slight consistent way of working with your stakeholders while adopting new ways of working in delivery and hopefully enhancing the data over time. What we see very quickly is actually seeing business owners, sponsors quite quickly engaging with Sharktower, especially as we can talk them through how do your objectives tie to project outcomes, and how can you interact and proactively support those project outcomes by having a look, understanding what's being required to deliver that, understanding what's going wrong and why it's going red, being able to work with the team to see what key decisions are they stuck on, what are they blocked on, can you help? So actually we're getting that shared accountability between business owners and sponsors and delivery teams, but also from an assurance role, where can I go help my teams better? Where do I need to go and help them replan? Where do I need to go and give them extra resources? And allowing you to identify that really quickly from an end-to-end portfolio view, by being able to go and probe, do some more, looking, get some more insights and predictions that might tell you where to look that's causing the problem, and allowing you to help people focus. Hopefully that was useful. As I say, these are really short sessions to try and bring together, how we try to remove that pain of manual reporting and data gather, the waste that's created in that, but the challenge that it leaves is actually the lack of decision making you can really make to help solve problems fast, because ultimately information is out of date, it's static, we can't drill down. And actually, how do we make a step change of, if we can get everybody working more collaboratively in one platform that fits for everyone, if we can have data in real time insights and visibility, then we'll spend the majority of our time in project lead roles or assurance roles actually focusing on how we can make things better. How can we improve the probability of outcomes and reduce uncertainty, as opposed to how do we focus on getting reporting right. I'll stop there, Nikki, and I'll obviously hand back to yourself for questions, I think. Hopefully we've got some.
We have. Thanks ever so much for that, Craig. There's a couple around reports. So as you've just been talking about reports, let's go into those. And anyone, if you need to come off mute and talk more about your question, then please feel free, or put your hand up, and if you can't work out how to come off mute. So the first one around reports was, are you able to pull reports from this, and can you also refer to historical project data?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, you can, absolutely. And so both, as you see, we sort of showed that in the risking issues, you can pull reports on that. And one of the areas that we're working on is making sure that you can also do that end to end in the portfolio, and also start to create in the future your own custom dashboards. But in the meantime, we help you do that. One of the things we're really big is making sure you get insights from the data. So interesting, our customer success team don't only help you with access of the delivery data, but also actually on usage data. So we'll share with you who uses Sharktower, how they're using it, what pattern they're using it, and are certain project managers using it more than others? And is that influencing the quality of the information? So yeah, absolutely, getting access to your data is key. This is your data, it's your project data, being able to extract it. What we obviously encourage, and one of the things why we want to get in the future more more self-service customer reporting, is we don't want people to take information out of Sharktower and send it to stakeholders, because again, that's manual work. So don't go and duplicate it and replicate it, but you can. We know that you'll have a need for that, especially for analysis on trends, etc. But we'll also help with you. So it's embedded in our sort of business license, and the customer success will do that with you and give you monthly insights of where's the quality issues. So for example, we'll do reports on plan data, say, well, actually across all your plans, there's many of them don't have any outcomes. So that's that's not right. That's not best practice. Or we've got activities that don't have the right volume of tasks underneath, or the timeliness of information. So we'll show you some of that quality assurance stuff and usage stuff, as well as the sort of the standard project data, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. I'm conscious of time, so please stay if you've got a couple more minutes, because there's some really good questions. Another question still related to reports. Can you modify those templates for a specific organization?
Yes, so that's the one thing we do. That's why we do that tailored reporting, but we also do it and give it to you. So we do not believe that you should be relying on your vendor, your software vendor, to constantly update reports. So we will give you the data, and we'll work with you to do that tailored reporting, so that, and then allow you to then do it. So we quite often, that example I showed there in Power BI, we'll create that tailored view that fits with your current organizational needs. We'll give that over to you, so you can go modify as you want in the future and show you how. Ultimately, give you the rod so you can fish, as opposed to give you the fish, if that makes sense.
Nice. Another slightly different question. Are you able to interlink project dependencies?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I didn't show it there, but conscious of time, but very, very quickly. Can you see the plan, Nikki?
I can, and you might be able to answer two questions in one, because one is, can you show us the interface where you put project data?
Yeah, so this is the interface. This is the plan. Ultimately, everything you're seeing here is either activity and standard work breakdown. It's sprint and agile. Sharktower doesn't care. So you can have flow of a waterfall activity coming into a sprint If you put stories in it, Sharktower will give you burn down charts. It knows it. But this is the example that answers that. So if I click on this activity, I can add tasks, stories, risks, issue dependencies, all under that. And again, it's all those different items all under that, related to that piece of work. What you're seeing here is a linked dependency. I can go and link dependencies from other projects, other activities. So that blue arrow coming in is telling me there's an inbound dependency on this into this activity, and I get that live information. So I know exactly what the start and end date is and what the status is. So I don't have to go and chase Peter for a status all the time. So absolutely can do that. As you see, there's an outbound one as well, that there's another project reliant on that activity. And you see that linkage all the time.
Fantastic. So I think we'll close it there, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide. And all that's left for me to say is, if you'd like a personalised demonstration, pop along to sharktower.com and there's a button that you can hit for that, or a trial, or just come and look and see our blog for our news and views. And finally, the winner of the Lego Surf House thing is Ruth Moore. So Ruth, if you wouldn't mind either direct messaging me on LinkedIn or send an email to info@sharktower.com, we'll get your Lego Surf House dispatched to you. So thank you all for attending. Thanks to Craig for presenting today, and we'll be holding the next one in a couple of weeks. So again, look out for our communications around that. For that, I shall now close the webinar. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.